Joe Bradley. Gentlemen, you're very welcome. Joe and Colm, I suppose what we're really looking at, to be honest, here in the first match is what kind of championship shape, if you like, Kerry, or at least what kind of an effort they make today.
I mean, the Kerry boys, we had a wee stroll out in the pitch and they were very relaxed. And you know, we were talking to Mark O'Shea, who was very disappointed. You know, a fella who just loves football and would love to be playing today. And Kieran Donaghy just looks so monstrous when you see him in the flesh. I mean, he's really huge, isn't he? But
he sure is.
They're very relaxed about this. It's a bit like sort of Manchester City against, I suppose, Plymouth or Stevenage, someone like that. And it would be different if Tipperary were coming into this in the same way as Longford, for example, have had a brilliant campaign and they're coming in and they're dangerous. Or even Wicklow today, who'll be very, very dangerous. But Tipperary have had a catastrophic year, and you know, the Kerry boys this will be a loosener for them today, but they play such beautiful football.
And also, Colm, the thing about it is that, as I mentioned a moment ago there, the fact that Tip have played Kerry in the last 2 years, well, they know what they're in for.
Yeah, absolutely, and I suppose the Kerry attitude to the game itself is shown by the fact that Mark O'Shea, even though he has a hamstring, he says, well, if I was pushed I really could play. They've left Kieran Donaghy on the line as sort of a gentle slap on the wrist for minor misdemeanours. If this was a serious game, those two fellas will be starting. They won't be going anywhere. But what it does now is give them a nice gentle run into the game against Cork, get everybody fit and well. And I suppose when Kerry think about their last championship match in Croke Park, it still sends shivers down their spine how they managed to lose that game. And there's no doubt about it, there's a very intense focus in Kerry on winning the All-Ireland this year to make up for last year.
OK, let's hear from two men who will be playing in this afternoon's Munster football quarter-final at 2 o'clock, followed by Tip and Limerick in hurling at 4. It's time to hear from the rival managers ahead of this afternoon's Munster football quarter-final. They are Peter Creedon, the Tipperary manager, and Jack O'Connor, of course, the man in charge in Kerry. They've been talking to Joanne Cantwell.
So, Peter, how do you approach a game like this against a team like Kerry?
Not sure. All we've been doing is setting goals based on last year's match and trying to reduce the scores against and maybe get a few more points ourselves. So that's our frame of mind for today.
How do you get their minds in the right place, given that they have taken a few beatings from this team over the last few years?
And all you can do is keep focusing on your own strengths, and we're quite aware in Tipperary where we're at the moment, and we know where we're trying to get to as well. So that's just a part of the process, really. Just set your goals and keep going and get going again.
We're looking forward to it. It's a great pitch to play in. It's a kicking pitch, and we'll be hoping to play good, fast, open football.
Now, no Kieran Donaghy in the starting 15. Are you able to confirm that this is because of a breach in discipline, or are those rumours incorrect?
Look, Joanne, no, we picked the team on merit. We're happy with the team we picked, and I'm sure Kieran will play a part in it, and that's as much as I want to say about it.
Yeah, Peter Creedon and Jack O'Connor talking to Joanne Cantwell. Kerry, of course, the clear favourites to reach a Munster semi-final against Cork. Joe Bradley, you're not convinced about their tactics this year, and also that Kieran Donaghy thing, true or otherwise, it's bubbling away in the background.
Well, I think it's just a one-off. I mean, it's obvious that they were a bit piqued that he didn't turn up for a training session and he went to the Champions League final, and that's just a one-off. It wouldn't be happening if they were playing Tyrone. But I think that for a team that's built to play the kicking game, the disappointing thing tactically, and a lot of the things down to Jack O'Connor, is that after the Tyrone reversals and all of that, you had a team that were built to play a kicking game. They're terrifically skilled, they're two-footed. You know, they had Kieran Donaghy, the best ball-winning full forward that we've seen in this era, in this generation. And I mean, by last year they had reverted to a full-scale blanket defence, hand-passing, solo-running team. Declan O'Sullivan, one of the most dangerous forwards in the country, spends all of his time in the defence now. He was intercepted solo-running out of his defence for the crucial goal last year for the Dubs. There's Kieran Donaghy, who's been at wing half forward all year. That's him deep in his own defence against Mayo, playing a ball across his own square that led to the Mayo penalty. You know, what is Kieran Donaghy doing at wing half forward? Why are Kerry solo-running and hand-passing when they can do this? I mean, we well recall when Kieran Donaghy came onto the scene, he debunked the myth of Francie Bellew in 60 minutes, ended the Armagh era. They were kicking long ball in, they were kicking accurate ball from their defence to the forwards, and this was the way Kerry were playing. Declan O'Sullivan is one of the most lethal forwards in the country. He's spending more and more of his time in the defence. Last year in the Munster final, he went up front for the first 15 minutes and ran riot. I mean, this is the All-Ireland final in 2007. 3 high balls were kicked.
Since 1935, but the winning of last year's All-Ireland minor title is reflected in the presence of 19-year-old Michael Quinlivan at full forward for the very first time. At the other end of the field, goalkeeper Paul Fitzgerald is the most experienced of the squad at 35 years of age. In George Hannigan and Hugh Coughlin in the middle of the field, Tipperary have a potential advantage, but forwards like Peter Atchison and team captain Philip Austin will have to sparkle and inspire. Kerry travel to Thurles, the hottest of favourites, despite the absence because of injury of Mark O'Shea and the surprising story of Kieran Donaghy's failure to get a starting 15 jersey. Daniel Bohan is given the responsibility of manning the square, while the growing reputation of Killorglin's Peter Crowley is reflected in his presence in the half-back line. Kieran O'Leary is given more space out in the wings, while Patrick Curtin from Myvan is a championship debutant. Slight little breeze, but in no way having any effect. As Brian Sheehan steps up and puts that over the bar for the first score of the match. That particular victory and provincial winning title championship side, pulling in the jersey, was Anthony Maher.
That's it. Anthony Maher caught.
Well, Rovers. Well, he might have been under pressure, but didn't he do well?
Well, it's the preference I've always had for kicking it off the ground over the years since taking it out of your hands came in with Brian Sheehan one end opening the scoring for Kerry, and then Quinlivan with a lovely ball, difficult angle as you say. Real engagement with the game. You don't have to be playing well, you don't have to be on the ball, but it's real hard work.
This is Alan Maloney, centre field on the Tipperary under-21 team that won the Munster title in 2010, beating Kerry in Tralee, and that's tipped over the bar. Good work by Alan Maloney. Ball inside, there's a chance for Tipperary. And the captain hits the post. Philip Austin comes back for his Alan Maloney. Back outside, Peter Aitchison again, looking for support. He's confident enough to have a lash himself. Not bad for a team that was playing Division 3 and were relegated to Division 4. Brian Sheehan. Declan O'Sullivan comes out around the 45. Colm Cooper gives it back to O'Sullivan. Confident enough to have a go from there, and he hits it beautifully. Declan O'Sullivan's first point. It's Tomas O'Shea. That was at the end of it. Anthony Maher. Lots of running off the ball by the Kerry forwards, including this man, Declan O'Sullivan. Floats one in towards Patrick Curtin. Andrew Morrissey with him. Curtin not afraid in any game that I've seen him play to take on his marker, to run at him. Declan O'Sullivan flicks it forward. There's Kieran O'Leary. Chance here for Brian Sheehan, and he gets his second point. Brian Fox. George Hannigan and Brian Sheehan going up for it. Tipperary regain the possession, and the free is quickly taken. Brian Fox lays it off far as Hugh Coughlin. Going forward, chasing after him is Anthony Maher. There's a little buzz of excitement when Tipperary go forward. Peter Atchison looking around for support. Doesn't fall the possession. There's a chance here for Tipperary, and they're going to take that point. They certainly are.
Yeah,
good work by Philip Austin, coming through a good combination. Aitchison did very well here, laid it off. He almost lost control, but Austin did really well. Good option.
Yeah, but just to his right, Marty, is the number 13 for Tip. And Alan Maloney should have got the ball, and then the ball is in the back of the net. So, you know, great goal chance, but they took the point.
That's Tipperary's first score, by the way, since the 11th minute. A vital one. Teams level now for the third time. Darren O'Sullivan, great engine. It was almost a trip, but it's Darren O'Sullivan going through this trouble. He just blazed it over the bar. But what about that for a penetrating, incisive run by Darren O'Sullivan? He literally took off. George Hannigan did his best to trip him. O'Sullivan survived that. Paul Fitzgerald came off his line. and he blazed it over the bar.
I think, Marty, this fella actually generates more goal chances than any player playing inter-county football. Doesn't always take them, takes a fair percentage of them.
Well, takes the kick out, goes for distance, straight down the middle. Dispossessed rather easily after making a fine catch. Nice ball inside, there's a chance here of a goal. And Tipperary were exposed. Kieran O'Leary coming through. Started with Peter Crowley. It was a Tipperary ball initially. They lost possession way too easily, and that could have been far, far more trouble for the Premier County. Good score, though, by Kieran O'Leary.
An awful lot of forwards are doing this now. They get one-on-one with the keeper and they take the easy option of fisting it over the bar. And I suppose you can't blame them to a certain degree, but I think, you know, in any one game you get X amount of goal chances, and they're really good goal chances. You know, you're
Darren O'Sullivan. Kieran O'Leary wanted it. Goes instead for Peter Crowley from Killorglin. Back to O'Leary. Good vision. Available is Anthony Marr. Point scoring opportunity. Taken by Anthony Marr. That's 3 points for Kerry from the two midfielders. Brian Sheehan is on 2. Anthony Marr is on his first.
And again, it's just a result of very quick hands, quick free man.
Touchdown again from Brian Sheehan, sufficient for Kieran O'Leary to take up the possession. Anthony Marr floats one in to Declan O'Sullivan. Paul Galvin is coming in. There's 3 Tipperary defenders around him. Still Galvin. Good vision for his Colm Cooper, and he takes his point with style and ease.
It was a lovely pass from Paul Galvin, as you said, but when it comes back into the gooch, watch the way he loses his man in just a little shimmy. It's going to come up here now. Just watch the way he loses Kieran MacDonald. Gone. Just a quick shift, great balance over the bar.
4-point advantage now for the Kingdom of Kerry.
It stood him up and gave away the free.
Colm Cooper.
Quinlivan could do with it for his own confidence as well.
That gives you a good idea of the angle from our camera perspective behind the goalposts. He's already scored 1 point. Missed a few. Taps this one over for his 2nd point of the match. And Tipperary's hopes remain alive. Quite a large local Tipperary have suffered the last 2 years, in fact, losing by 12 points, 11 points on each occasion. So they feel that what they're looking here for is a good performance. It's stay in contention for as long as they can will be an achievement. Alan Maloney hit that superbly. Beautiful. And that's his 2nd point of the game.
Beautiful strike. I made the point earlier on that he has a really nice left foot, and he's had one of the wides that, you know, he'd be surprised at. That's a beautiful kick.
And there's a big cheer for the Tipperary footballers as they come off the field. They've been level 3 times in the first half, and they are indeed playing rather well, the home side. Kerry still remain the better looking.
Say, Kerry leading as you would expect, not by the amount that we would have expected, and it's been fairly pedestrian stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess of a game. And
although we have to emphasise how warm it is here in Thurles today. I wouldn't fancy playing football in myself.
No, and not too bad out in the field.
And the pitch is very, very hard. It'll suit hurling perfectly, but it's going to be hard on the players' knees and ankles today. They're going to get quite a jolting. But the game itself reflects, I'd say, a lot of what's bad in Gaelic football. There must have been 1,000 hand passes. Kerry persist in hand passing the ball to forwards coming out the field. It's an amazingly negative type of tactic, because oftentimes the player coming out the field is as far out again as the player who gives the ball rather than kicking it. And Tipperary got into the game very spirited, reflected in the sort of great block downs that we had from Andrew Morrissey and Kieran MacDonald there. So Tipperary aren't just rolling over, but I would say that the Kerry management will be very unhappy with the way that they have actually gone about playing.
I suppose those opening minutes of the game, those first 10 or 15 minutes, Joe, go on.
Well, I was going to say I don't know that they would be unhappy, because it's the Kerry management's fault that the Kerry team are playing like that. I mean, we were watching there, we were saying, like, they resolutely refused to kick the ball. takes them 8 or 10 hand passes to come out of their own full back line. No one's prepared to kick the ball. And the net effect of that, of course, is just that they're playing exactly the same way as everyone else is. And you know, the president said 3 or 4 weeks ago, the Uachtaráin said that Gaelic football had become boring in relation to blanket events, etc., etc. And he was panned for that. The president was absolutely right. It is boring. I mean, me and my father sit at the dairy matches now and we call it our weekly punishment. You know, everyone's soldiering around and hand passing to each other and then looping around in the back, and then I'll hand pass it to you and then you hand pass it to me. And then they're watching these videos, you know, 50 short-sighted hand passing games. And all these coaches have come into the game from other disciplines. The net effect of it is that you see really that rubbish that we're watching today. I mean, it is just complete rubbish. Like, the hurling men are out there. Well, of course, the hurling Nazis, you know what they're like, but look now, and what do you call them? They're sitting just chatting amongst each other. They're not even watching the match. You know
what Colin was talking about there earlier on, Colin.
Players on the field a chance to redeem themselves and maybe produce a far better second half. Anthony Marr is fouled, and there's going to be what now seems to be a throw ball. George Hannigan and Anthony Marr all over each other, really. Peter Atchison in there in the thick of it. Hugh Coughlin taking the fray, going for distance. Nicely picked up, chance of a point, and it sails between the posts. Good work by Alan Maloney, getting his 3rd point of the game, and a good start to the second half by Tipperary.
You know, it's well broken down and hooks it over his shoulder. It's a really fine score. There he is again with that left.
2 goals against Tipperary last year in the Munster Championship in the corresponding game. The umpire goes.
Ball from outside the 45, so this is well within his range. Kerry player standing very close to him, in fact, but nonetheless should be able to make it.
Gives you a good idea of his location on the field. And he hits it superbly. 4 points for Alan Maloney. And one thing that is now established as a result of this championship game, that Tipperary have a fine free taker.
And Quinlivan really should have taken the ball on himself and had a go. He's an accurate player.
Kick out from Brendan Keeley, knocked down by George Hannigan to Shane Scully. Coming through is Hugh Coughlin. This is much better out of Tipperary. Hugh Coughlin, the space is opened up, hits a shot! Oh, a blistering drive! That scratches off the crossbar almost, with sheer speed and venom in the shot. And Tipperary, for the very first time, opened up this Kerry defence. This is what we mean by incision. And keeper did really well.
He really did. He really did.
He was tipped over by the goalkeeper over the bar. Great save by
Super
Brendan
save,
Keeley.
yeah, it's a goal chance and he's going for it, but Keeley makes a great save. Surely, Marty, we're going to see Donaghy, because Kerry are struggling a small little bit.
Tomás O'Shea gets it back, fires Killian Young. Owen Brosnan looks for the ball and it's duly delivered. Kieran Donaghy is warming up. He's taken off the tracksuit top. He's about to be introduced. Donaghy.
This is where Tip have to hold their discipline. They cannot be given Brian Sheehan tap-overs like this, because he'll get these all day, and that'll keep the gap where they want it to be. Now we're going to have a look at this save again. Tremendous drive down through the middle by Colin, and a great drive, just a little bit straight at the keeper, but staying on this massive power, and he tips it over, and here comes Donaghy.
Substitute.
Makes it a 1 point game, and then the wides of the first half give it a real context. They've had some horrible wides in the first half. You know, where might they be? But they're playing particularly well, and Kerry are obviously rattled.
Here's Michael Quinlivan. Off the post. Now that is a serious miss, because we were putting that down as a simple tap over. You have to take those opportunities, and a simple moment like that can deflate the bubble of confidence. Tomás O'Shea to Kieran Donaghy. Now, how will he influence this match? Will he indeed exert an influence? Anthony Marr surging forward, goes for distance into the corner. Patrick Curtin chasing after it. Andrew Morrissey there as well. And again, Kerry just off the dash. Marty, the referee, has made a dash into the centre to indicate that
He
he's
dashed like a fox into the centre.
I'm getting slightly tongue-tied, but you know what I mean.
It's making a simple one out of it, and it's a descent penalty. And I don't know, guys like this at this level making difficult frees into simple ones.
Yeah, Marty Duffy, the referee, that's what I was trying to say. Obviously heard the words of dissent, moved it into the centre, and Colm Cooper gets his 4th point of the match. I don't want, but he's a good,
He's very, very solid. He's having a really good game.
Free is quickly taken. Declan O'Sullivan. Paddy Codd staying with it. He's given the O'Sullivan from South Kerry a little bit too much room, and Declan O'Sullivan puts his name on the score sheet, and now it's 5 points between the teams.
Yeah, he just got away with the overholding there, I would have thought. Seemed to hold the ball without playing it, but he gets away with it, and he finishes certainly very nicely.
Touchdown comes to Kieran Donaghy off Brian Sheehan. Just about won that, James O'Donoghue. He's a good player. He did a really good league campaign as well. Kieran Donaghy is striving forward. Back out first, Colm Cooper. Long ball into space. George Hannigan. Hannigan waiting for the arrival of Philip Austin. Well won, beating 2 Kerry defenders. Lays it off, fires Alan Maloney. Maloney retaining possession. Back outside, fires Peter Atchison. And Atchison puts it over the bar. Tipperary show their mettle, their self-belief. They may have been relegated to Division 4, but they are certainly putting it up to the Munster champions.
And while all this was going on earlier, Kieran MacDonald and Kieran Donaghy are having a nice bit of rugby league. Referee is heading back now while we're looking at the replay. Nothing too dramatic, I'd have to say, just pulling. Absolute just inexperience. Youthful enthusiasm. He thought he was going to get through. That was about the last and worst option he should have taken.
Donald Lynch is on for Tipperary. Going off is Lorcan Egan. Going forward here is Brian Maguire from Listowel Emmets in North Kerry. Colm Cooper. Still Cooper. Nice ball inside. Going forward is James O'Donoghue, and he plants it between the posts. These are good nippy forwards that are emerging from the underage ranks, and they have the bit of that Kerry swagger and self-belief.
That was a chance made out of nothing really. Gooch was dancing in the corner with it, and then Donoghue comes off him, catches him with a lovely pass. There's the finish. Onto a very solid platform. That's the key difference.
Brian Sheehan takes the free and the punt. 6 points for the Kerry midfielder. 2 minutes of additional time. We're about 44 seconds in. We now have Aldo Matassa, who's on instead of midfielder George Hannigan. Andrew Morrissey coming from right corner back, laying it off far as Donaghy.
I should say, after that performance today.
Well, I just think that strategically they're just a mess. All they're doing now is copying what Tyrone and the Northern teams brought into the game. I mean, they've got no half-forward line at all. Their half-forward line are always in their defence. So they've got no number 11. They haven't got a playmaking half-forward line, which means that the ball's coming to their full forwards at the last moment. So as things stand, they don't have a number 11, didn't have a number 14 today. Brought on Kieran Donaghy at wing half-forward, and he spent most of his time in the defence. Could you imagine Mick O'Dwyer playing Bomber Liston at wing half-forward and instructing him to go back and tackle in his defence? That's how far Kerry have fallen strategically. And you know, there wasn't much in that game today, because both Kerry are now playing the way that most of the lesser teams play. You know, instead of working on what they could be very, very good at it, indeed, I just think that, and I've thought this for some time, you know, since the Tyrone thing and last year and all of that, that Jack O'Connor really doesn't have a very clear idea about how to manage these players and how to manage this group. I think they're a mess.
But Jack O'Connor led Kerry to an All-Ireland title a couple of years ago.
Did they not lead him to an All-Ireland title?
Well,
they
I mean, that's always, that's, you know,
hold on.
who won the All-Ireland for me? Was it Sean Boyden or Colin O'Rourke?
Look at the brilliance of the footballers that he's had at his disposal. I'll put it to you this way. In the modern era, they have been the most brilliant group of footballers that have been available. Every big test they've had, strategic or otherwise, Tyrone 3 times, Dublin last year, every time it's been put up to them, they have lost.
Well, that's not fair either.
The only All-Ireland finals that they've won were against Mayo twice and against Cork once, where they had cake.
Well, Colin before the match was agreeing with some of the point that you were making on this topic,
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be fair to say that they've lost. Like, they came up against an absolutely brilliant Tyrone team with some of the best individuals.
Very well organised tactically.
Yeah, but they also, you know, where would you get better individuals
I agree.
Peter Canavan and Stephen
Every
O'Neill?
time they've been tested, they've lost the final.
But they came up against a collection of individuals at that time who are just as talented as themselves and maybe better organised. At the moment,
maybe
Kerry have problems. Their main problems, I think, are at the back, because without Mark O'Shea at the back, they were opened up several times there today, and the other side.
16 points, Tipperary 10.
I just thought we were sloppy in possession. We turned over a lot of ball needlessly, and that gave them encouragement. And you know, a turnover for them was like a score because it got the ball down the other end. But you know, just happy enough to get out of here and prepare for Cork now in 2 weeks.
We went out to play 15 versus 15, and we said we might as well go out and have a cut off them and play it honestly, and that's what we did. They got a few handy frees, I felt, from the referee, which kind of made it more difficult for us. But look, we're happy, and we can move on to the qualifiers in a good frame of mind.
Yeah, and Colin shortly, he was at the Meath-Wicklow match this afternoon. But for now, it's time to name our RTEGA man of the match from Semple Stadium. And our co-commentator this afternoon, Kevin McStay, had the choice, pick Daniel Bohan.
Tougher than you'd expected, perhaps?
Yeah, there was serious heat out there, like, you know, so the legs were tired there at the end, like, but I think the lads used the bench very well, so we're fresh legs on towards the end. A lot of fellas were finding it hard in the heat.
Do you think that's what the only real problem that there was out there for Kerry today?
Yeah, I think so. Like, we've an awful lot of work done. Like, we've had 5 or 6 weeks of very good training, and I think, look, it's the first game of the year. Fellas are going to be small.